The 2014 Royal Rumble was one of the most controversial WWE pay-per-views in recent memory. It was the night a returning Hollywood hero had his moment spoiled. It was the night WWE fans pretty much hijacked the show and sent WWE a message about what and who they really wanted to see in the prime position. It was the night before one of the biggest stars in the business decided he had had enough and walked out. It was an eventful night, alright, with a lot going on and a lot of wrestlers on the card. 10 years later, we ask, just what happened to them all? Mason Ryan, Stevie Ray, Earthquake, Alundra Blaze, Norman Smiley, Zach Gowen, Bam Bam Bigelow, Ahmed Johnson, Tory Wilson, Buff, Bagwell, Robert Gibson, Dave Taylor, Terry Taylor, and Godfather's Holmes. Dwayne Gill, Adam Bomb, Michael Hayes, Cor Von, S.A. Rios, Jim Manai, the manager from Kai and Tai, Jim Powers, Francine, Jack Swagger, Mean Gene, Fat Chick Thriller, Duke the Dumpster, Oklahoma Manta. What happened to that wrestler? Some were main eventing, which leaves me lamenting. What happened to that wrestler? Some since long forgotten, but their memories live on. Billy Gunn. The Royal Rumble kicked off with, kickoff show. Duh. On it, the New Age Outlaws rolled back the years and upset the Rhodes brothers to bag their fifth and final pair of WWE Tag Team titles. Gunn subsequently worked as a coach at the WWE Performance Center, but was let go after it came to light he had tested positive for a banned substance during a powerlifting competition. Now in his 60s, he is still going strong in All Elite Wrestling, where he both wrestles and acts as a coach. At time of recording, he holds the AEW Trios Championships with the Acclaimed. Road Dogg. The DOGG is not still wrestling, and in fact hasn't had a match since the Outlaws lost to the Ascension at the 2015 Royal Rumble pay-per-view. He has been busy behind the scenes mind and currently serves as Senior Vice President of Live Events. The 54-year-old is also keen to let the world know what he thinks of the wrestling industry via his Oh You Didn't Know podcast. Cody Rhodes. 6 months after dropping the tag titles to the Outlaws, Cody morphed into Stardust. This led to some success and another tag title run with Goldust in the short term, but long term the character was ultimately directionless. The grandson of a plumber hated doing it too and asked for his release in May of 2016. He rebuilt his reputation on the indies and internationally, and then with AEW before returning to WWE as a bona fide headliner at WrestleMania 38. Goldust. Like his little brother, Dustin Runnels grew fed up with his loss and asked for his own release in April of 2019. In his first post-WWE outing, Dustin had perhaps the best match of his entire career when he battled Cody in a dramatic bloodbath at AEW's first ever pay-per-view, Double or Nothing. Since then, he's worked in the ring and as a backstage producer/coach. He also owns and operates his own training school, the Rhodes Wrestling Academy. Bray Wyatt. Bray Wyatt had some serious momentum heading into the 2014 Royal Rumble pay-per-view. Just a few months after making their debuts, the Wyatt family were one of the hottest acts in the company and in the midst of an intriguing storyline with Daniel Bryan. Bray beat D. Bryan a tremendous opening match here and would go on to have a stellar, if not inconsistent, WWE career as both Bray Wyatt and The Fiend. Sadly, Wyndham Rotunda's life came to a shocking premature end when he passed away from a heart attack on August 24, 2023. He was only 36. There will never be another. Luke Harper. Unfortunately, this doesn't get any less sad, does it? Luke Harper also had a strong run in WWE, but got tired of the grind and the stop-start pushes and requested his release in 2019. It was ultimately granted to him, and he looked, as Brody Lee, to restart his career in AEW. Tragically, Brody passed away following an illness on December 26, 2020, just 10 days after his 41st birthday. Like Bray, there will simply never be another like him. Eric Rowan. Accompanying Bray Wyatt alongside Luke Harper was the massive and massively underrated Eric Rowan. The big man would continue to wrestle for WWE in various roles before being an early victim of pandemic-era budget cuts when he was released in April of 2020. He has since, as Eric Redbeard, worked on the indies and overseas and did a couple of matches for AEW. Outside of wrestling, Joseph Rudd is an actor and has booked gigs on some big-time TV shows. Daniel Bryan. Daniel Bryan thought his in-ring career was over when doctors suggested he should hang up his boots owing to persistent neck issues and head trauma. The American Dragon, though, was able to come back better than ever and finish a glittering WWE career on his own terms. After letting his contract expire, Bryan Danielson resurfaced in AEW in 2021. He's currently in the process of winding down his full-time in-ring career, though plans to continue wrestling occasionally for as long as his body allows him to. Brock Lesnar. Match number 2 saw Brock Lesnar take on Big Show, a match previously seen at a Royal Rumble pay-per-view 11 years earlier. The Beast incarnate weathered an early storm to put the world's largest athlete away before pummeling him with numerous brutal chair shots. Despite intermittent chatter that he's thinking about retiring to his ranch in Saskatchewan, Brock still wrestles for WWE on a part-time basis. He just now does it with a big bushy beard and a ponytail. Paul Heyman. No longer aligned with Brock Lesnar, Paul Heyman has hitched his wagon to the Tribal Chief train. Still incredibly influential both on-screen and behind the scenes, there is nothing to suggest the wise man will leave WWE anytime soon. Big Show. Big Show, on the other hand, has already left the company. Once thought to be a WWE lifer, Paul White got sick of the BS and left Vince McMahon's employ for Tony Khan's. Mostly working as an announcer and coach, White has also wrestled a handful of matches for AEW since signing for them in February of 2021. Randy Orton. The third and final match of the main card before the Rumble was a familiar one, as Randy Orton put his WWE World Heavyweight title on the line against perennial rival John Cena. The Viper is still with WWE, though a serious back injury and subsequent major surgery kept him on the shelf for 18 months not too terribly long ago. Still somehow in his early 40s and with over 2 decades of WWE television under his belt, Orton has made it known that he wishes to continue wrestling until he turns 50. John Cena. The face that runs the place ain't about the place much these days, but he always gets a hero's welcome when he does stop by. Cena had a fairly active 2023 in WWE compared to recent years, though his primary focus remains on his career in Hollywood. A man in demand, Big Screen John has made the transition seamlessly. CM Punk. Drawing number 1 in the 2014 Royal Rumble match was none other than CM Punk. And really, where do we even begin? The Rumble turned out to be Punk's last WWE outing for almost a decade, as he walked out of the company at the next evening's Raw taping. Beat up, tired, and with a list of grievances a mile long, some doubted whether or not the straight-edge superstar would ever return to wrestling, especially after an ill-fated 2-fight run in the UFC. However, Punk did return to wrestling in 2021, though it was for AEW and not WWE. A lot happened during his 2 years on the AEW payroll, but long story short, he was fired from the promotion and shockingly ended up returning to WWE at Survivor Series 2023. The term hell froze over gets used a lot, but it feels apt in this case. By all accounts, a changed man looking forward to contributing as a true team player, Punk's WWE return has generally been well received by those backstage. So far anyway. Seth Rollins. Well, look who we have coming out at number 2, eh? It's Seth Rollins. One of the many to voice their issues with CM Punk, Rollins has been one of the bedrocks of WWE over the course of the past decade. He has won everything and wrestled just about everyone during his Hall of Fame-worthy career. Outside of WWE, he helps run his own training school, owns a coffee shop, and is married to fellow WWE star Becky Lynch. The two have a young daughter named Rue, no relation to Lashley. Damien Sandow. Third in and first man eliminated was Damien Sandow. The intellectual savior of the masses had his WWE highlights for sure, but the overall feeling following his May 2016 release was that he could have done so much more. The Indies and TNA led him to the NWA, where he's been a fixture since 2019. He's also pursuing a career in acting. The Big Red Machine, Kane. Cody Rhodes at number 4 was followed by Kane at number 5. The Big Red Machine's in-ring activity began to wind down in 2017 as Glenn Jacobs focused his efforts on his political career. The current mayor of Knox County, Tennessee last wrestled in the 2021 Royal Rumble. He was also inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame a few months later. Alexander Rusev. Repping NXT was a young barefoot man named Alexander Rusev. The Bulgarian brute lasted a respectable 7 minutes and 6 seconds before getting ganged up on and eliminated. Rusev is another talent from the 2010s that had a good run which could have been a lot better had things gone differently. He was one of the first people released by WWE during the pandemic and subsequently joined AEW, where he wrestles and apparently doesn't like to do jobs as Miro. He's married to CJ Perry, aka Lana. Jack Swagger. Count Jack Swagger is another former WWE star that now calls AEW their home. Jake Hager signed with AEW back in 2019 and amassed an impressive 3-0 record for Bellator MMA with 1 no contest. He is now retired from cage fighting. Kofi Kingston. Kofi Kingston's life and career would change in late 2014 when he was paired up with Big E Langston and Xavier Woods to form The New Day. One of the most popular WWE acts ever, The New Day helped all 3 men revive floundering careers. Kingston, who improbably won the WWE title at WrestleMania 35, is still with WWE as one of the most tenured members of the roster. Jimmy Uso. The Usos were making their first ever appearances in the Royal Rumble match here, with Jimmy coming in at number 9. 10 years later, the multi-time former tag team champion is a member of the Bloodline alongside Reigns, Heyman, and Solo Sikoa. He's married to TNA's Trinity Fatu, aka former SmackDown Women's Champion Naomi. Dean Ambrose. Goldust was in at number 10, followed by Dean Ambrose at 11. 3 eliminations during a near 34-minute shift wasn't bad going for the Lunatic Fringe, who had a topsy-turvy 5 or so years in WWE after this. There were high highs and low lows, but the lows were seemingly low enough to convince Ambrose not to re-sign with the company and instead try his luck with the new kid in town. Jon Moxley has been an MVP for AEW, as well as wrestling on the indies and in Japan since. Outside the ring, he is married to former WWE television personality and current AEW interviewer Renee Paquette, formerly Renee Young, and the couple have a daughter together named Nora. Dolph Ziggler. A comforting presence on WWE programming for the best part of 15 years, Dolph Ziggler's near 20-year WWE journey came to an end when he was released in August of 2023. The show-off had become a utility player in recent years, but his release was still a shock to some people who figured he would have a job with the company for life. The former World Heavyweight Champion recently turned up in New Japan Pro Wrestling at Wrestle Kingdom 18, in TNA at Hard to Kill, and there's no guessing where Nick Nemeth will show off, get it, his face next. R-Truth. Blink and you'll miss him, R-Truth came and went courtesy of Ambrose in under 30 seconds. Now in his early 50s, though you couldn't tell, and still with WWE, he came back from a torn quad in late 2023. Away from wrestling, Ron Killings also has a career in music. Kevin Nash. 3 years after his surprise Rumble return as Diesel, Kevin Nash did it again as, well, Kevin Nash. In what turned out to be his last WWE match, Big Sexy managed to 86 Jack Swagger before being dumped by the Big Dog. Now a 2-time WWE Hall of Famer, the retired Nash does the autograph convention thing and tells the world what's on his mind via his popular Click This podcast. Roman Reigns. Setting a new record for most Rumble eliminations with 12 subsequently broken by Braun Strowman and Brock Lesnar, Roman Reigns had one of his early breakout performances in the 2014 Rumble. The match's runner-up was very clearly someone WWE intended to build their company around one day. It took some doing and there were about 1 million missteps along the way, but Reigns now sits at the head of the table, having held the WWE Universal title for over 1,200 days. Now a part-timer who only defends his belt on rare occasions, Roman is free to spend more time with his wife and children. He certainly earned the privilege. The Great Khali. The Shield teamed up to make sure we didn't have to suffer through more than 24 seconds of Khali. Thank you, The Shield. The Punjabi Playboy's WWE career was winding down by this point after a quite remarkable 8-year run. He would be gone by the end of the year, briefly return a couple of times in the future, including as an entrant in the Greatest Royal Rumble, and was inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame in 2021. These days, Khali runs the CWE training school and promotion in India. Sheamus. One of the stories that got lost in the aftermath of the 2014 Royal Rumble was that Sheamus had made his return in the titular match following a 5-month absence. The Celtic Warrior was unfortunately back on the injured list at the time of recording this video, and there was also speculation that he may not re-sign with WWE when his contract runs out this year. A very successful and consistent 15-year WWE veteran, his departure would certainly be a big loss for the company. The Miz. The Miz is creeping up on 20 years as a WWE star. 20 years! Not too bad for the bloke once kicked out of the SmackDown locker room for spilling chicken crumbs on a veteran's bag, eh? Mike Mizanin has seen and done it all in that time, but remains a valuable resource to WWE due to his versatility and adaptability. The fact that he's married to Maurice makes his face just a bit more punchable though, doesn't it? Fandango. From beating Chris Jericho at WrestleMania in his WWE debut match to being eliminated from the Rumble by a little person dressed as a bull. Life as a WWE star sure did come fast for Fandango, but the ballroom dancer turned fashion police officer managed to stick around for another 7.5 years before he was released. Since then, Dirty Dango has wrestled all over on the indies as well as for TNA. Outside of the business, the 40-year-old evidently does quite well in real estate ventures. El Torito. El Torito was released by WWE in May of 2016. Now going by Mascarita Dorada, he has primarily been wrestling on the Mexican and US indie scenes since then. Antonio Cesaro. Cesaro eventually dropped the Antonio part and looked set to become a breakout star following his triumph in the inaugural Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal at WrestleMania 30. Unfortunately, it never quite happened, though the Swiss Superman did give a good account of himself during his 10-year WWE stay, even if he was perennially overlooked. Cesaro decided to let his contract expire and exited the company in early 2022. Now going once again by his real name of Claudio Castagnoli, the Blackpool Combat Club member works for AEW and Ring of Honor. Jey Uso. Luke Harper entered the fray at number 22, with Jey Uso coming out after him at 23. Currently emancipated from brother Jimmy and the rest of the bloodline, Jey is now a big star in his own right on Monday nights. John Bradshaw Layfield. Entering as a surprise from his position behind the announce desk, John Bradshaw Layfield was technically in the match for 49 seconds before Reigns chucked him out. JBL's in-ring days came to an end in 2009, and since then, he has acted as a commentator and manager and made the occasional cameo while drifting in and out of WWE. Made a Hall of Famer in 2021, Layfield dedicates a sizable chunk of his time to helping at-risk kids and splits his time between houses in Texas and Bermuda. Ryback. Eric Rowan came out at 25, with Ryback entering the fray at 26. In stark contrast to a year ago, where the big guy eliminated 5 people and finished runner-up to John Cena, this year he was in for less than 5 minutes, scored no eliminations, and was unceremoniously canned. Ryback left WWE in 2016 and has spent the best part of a decade since slagging off the company. He has his own nutrition business now, but sadly he will never wrestle again and is officially retired. Alberto Del Rio. Oh goody. Another unimpressive showing from a man who actually won the 2011 40-man iteration of the Rumble match. Once considered one of WWE's top stars, especially where the Spanish-speaking market was concerned, Alberto never quite recaptured former glories across his 2 stints. A controversial character outside the ring with an often tumultuous personal life, Del Rio mostly wrestles on US and Mexican indies these days. He was also on the Mexican series of Bake Off. The more you know. Batista. The Animal's 2014 comeback was not everything WWE or Dave Bautista had hoped it would be. Overshadowed by Daniel Bryan's swelling popularity, Batista was turned heel and ended up not winning the WWE title in the main event of WrestleMania as had been the original plan. Massively successful in Hollywood, Big Dave is the gold standard when it comes to wrestlers turned actors. Despite growing commitments in Tinseltown, Batista was able to come back and finish his WWE career on his terms by colliding one last time with his mentor Triple H at WrestleMania 35. Big E Langston. The former NXT champion's personality came to the fore when he teamed up with Woods and Kingston later in the year to form the iconic New Day. Success for Big E soon followed, culminating with him winning the WWE title in September of 2021. Unfortunately, Big E would sustain a serious neck injury on the road to WrestleMania 38. He hasn't wrestled since, and really it could have been much worse, but the outrageously charismatic and inspirational figure has had plenty of commitments to keep him busy as he continues to convalesce. We would all love to see Big E return to a WWE ring, but not at the expense of his long-term health, and question marks remain over his future. Rey Mysterio. Poor Rey Mysterio. The unlucky masked man drew number 30 in the 2014 Royal Rumble, turning him into the biggest heel of the night by proxy due to the fact that he wasn't Daniel Bryan. This is where the match completely fell apart through no direct fault of the master of the 619. Mysterio left WWE in 2015 and wrestled around the world for a few years, including a fruitful spell in Lucha Underground, but returned to the fold in 2018. He's been there ever since and looks as good as ever as he approaches the Big 5-0. Rey was inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame in 2023 and signed a new WWE contract later in the year. But still, poor Rey.